The history of Fort Greene actually begins with the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which was originally known as the Wallabout. The country of Belgium is subdivided into three regions: Flanders, Brussels, of course, and Wallonia. People from Wallonia are known as Walloons. And so they're French-speaking Protestants, and they travel. Some of them travel with the Dutch when they first settled in New York City, in what would become New York City in the early 1600s. So the Walloons purchased land in the area of the Wallabout, and Wallabout actually translates to Walloons Bay or Walloons Bend, because the land dips in that area of the bay. Then, during the American Revolutionary War, Fort Putnam was built right in the same spot where Fort Greene Park is today, and they would later rename it Fort Greene after General Nathaniel Greene, who was a general under George Washington, a significant figure in a key event, which was the Battle of Brooklyn in 1802, when the United States government purchased the land and made Brooklyn Navy Yard. That brought growth to the area. 12 years later, ferry service commenced into Manhattan, which brought further growth to the area. There was a stagecoach along Myrtle Avenue that led up to that ferry. As the area began to get developed during the 1800s, remember, you have the railroads, the subways would soon be coming, which would open the area up even more. So this was during that time. So along Myrtle Avenue, you have these wealthy homes, brownstones, row houses, and in between all of that, you have basically what is a shanty town. Shacks, people living in extreme poverty, mostly Irish actually. There was an area in Fort Greene that they call Young Dublin, because it was predominantly Irish, living in squalor, and they would write about this in the paper. Since it began to be gentrified in the early 2000s. Similar situation now. When New York outlawed slavery, not long after that, you had the first black school, which was titled Colored School Number 1. That was the name of the school, and it was right where current day Fort Greene Projects is. In 1860, Brooklyn got its first park, which was Fort Greene Park, right on Myrtle. Originally, it was known as Washington Park, but the name was changed, and it was a big deal at the time. Brooklyn had its own newspaper, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Walt Whitman was the editor. With the building of Fort Greene Park in 1860, the area continued to be marketed to the wealthy. This is why some of the names of the main streets in Fort Greene, Cumberland, Adelphi, Carlton, Vanderbilt, they were named after streets in Westminster. Westminster's an area in central London. So they named the streets after those streets to appeal to high society.